Today's episode is 1969, famous for the moon landing, Woodstock, and Bryan Adams' favorite summer. Right now, though, it's a whole lot of sitting around because the path to the planet that they're planning to hit is near our sun. The path is not our planet. That would probably raise a few eyebrows otherwise. So what we want to do is to make sure our calculations are really correct, when the sun is involved. Before they go, though, Hammond gives Carter a note to keep on her and open when they reach their destination. He doesn't say what it is. Hopefully it's not, "You have taken my pudding cup for the last time! Enjoy the giant scorpions!" So anyway, they arrive. Oops, looks like someone forgot to carry the 1. And made a divide by 0 error. They suddenly find that they are not safe in the gate room. They are, in fact, unsafe under the butt end of a Titan missile ready for test firing. Fortunately, Teal'c is able to shut the engines down with the Zat gun before they all get honey roasted. However, the Air Force is none too happy that they're hanging out in here. So after O'Neill gets a rifle to the face, they wind up in a holding room, along with all their stuff in a different room. As you can imagine from the title, they have traveled to Cheyenne Mountain, the future home of the Stargate program, but in the year 1969. And actually their technology is leaps and bounds ahead thanks to that 30-year gap. As you can tell by this table covered in 22-year-old technology. When did we get so old? Anyway, the tech is turned over to a lieutenant who finds the note inside, addressed to George, with a message, "Help them," followed by 2 dates and times. While he puzzles over that, Daniel is thinking of the possibilities if they can make this whole time travel thing work on a regular basis, which he talks about with, sightseeing, because he's Daniel. See Babylon, see the building of the Great Wall. I mean, personally, if I had my choice, I would go to 2016. If you could chain together the bets on the Super Bowl, Brexit, the World Series, and the presidential election all together when you take advantage of the long odds for the ones who will eventually win, well, let me just say, I could finally fulfill my dream of having my own server and not have to deal with this hosting crap anymore. And I would get to put it on a Zeppelin like I'm supposed to. And I would have my staff be entirely sci-fi pirates, except for the ones piloting it because they would be cheerleader pirates. It's my Zeppelin, I can do whatever the hell I want. However, Carter shoots down any attempt to change the past because of the risk of destroying history and negating their own existence. We don't want to have that. Existing is an integral part of my daily routine. So yeah, they have to keep everything quiet no matter how much they want to talk, including O'Neill, because, well, when you get into time travel, it's kind of like the way that the medical officer can remove the captain. Yeah, the scientist gets to take over when time travel is involved. That's just how it works. So yeah, we're going to have to be cautious here. There's not the usual wiggle room that you have doing this kind of job, what with alien invaders or whatnot. Now you can disrupt the whole of history if you make a mistake. So you have to think before you do anything now.
Вы советские шпионы?
Нет, Daniel. He just asked if we were Soviet spies.
Damn, we tried that trick 1,000 times, but it's finally worked. Ruskies are so stupid. So O'Neill is dragged off to be questioned, but since they can't say anything, he just screws with the guy. Fortunately, that is a counter-interrogation technique that he has spent years perfecting. Meanwhile, in the present, if you follow me, Hammond orders SG-5 to carry out the mission in SG-1's place, saying that SG-1 is going to have to solve their own problems.
But they'll probably try to split us up, so we're not going to have much time
Escape and hopefully live out the rest of our lives without affecting history.
Go back to no internet, the imminent arrival of disco, and only 3 channels, plus your local station that was always playing The Boy Who Cried Werewolf? No thanks.
Or?
I can't think of an or at the moment, sir.
No or?
There's an or.
There's an or?
Sir, you can't just will something to happen because you want it to be a certain way.
Captain, where there's a will, there's an or.
So far, I'm filled with confidence. Well, the truck bringing them to talk to the CIA gets a flat, but this is the military, so it's a scheduled flat. The guy who found the note is Lieutenant Hammond, who would, of course, one day become General Hammond. And it told him, in his own handwriting, to help SG-1 out. But he's a little perturbed by the situation. They managed to reveal enough info to get him to come around to their side, though, and he frees them, noticing the cut on Carter's hand. The same cut that he saw in the future before this mission. We'd actually seen her get cut 2 episodes before this, in the episode One False Step. I should note, by the way, that the actor who is playing Hammond is incredibly convincing as a younger version of him. Don S. Davis is from Missouri, but this guy is Canadian. But he does such an impressive mimicry of all of the verbal tics and mannerisms, I had to actually check just to make sure they weren't related. Anyway, these airmen are just doing their duty, plus killing someone would be a pretty big oopsie for anyone trying to avoid that whole don't step on a butterfly problem. But luckily Hammond has brought along the Zat gun. They use it to stun all the airmen and to disintegrate their future equipment that they're not going to need out here. It's not like having an automatic rifle is going to do much to help them get back home, is it? I mean, there's no secret villain behind their trip, and the worst thing they have to worry about going cross-country in 1969 are dirty hippies. Just bring a bar of soap and you'll be fine. They bum some money off Hammond, zat him so it looks like he's just another victim of their escape, and head off to look for a sign that says this way to 30 years into the future. O'Neill's plan is simple. Find the Stargate and get back home. Stargate got us into this mess. Stargate will get us out of it. I mean, it's admittedly straightforward reasoning. It's just the big problem is they don't know where their Stargate is. I mean, they know that there's another one in Antarctica, but contrary to what you might think watching the Discovery Channel, it's not so easy to get down there. Plus, there's the fact these things are made for space travel and not time travel. We've been using this thing for darn close to a couple of years now without this happening up until now. So something wonky happened. It's not going to be a simple matter of looking around trying to find the right little switch to flip to go from travel across the galaxy to flying through time. But O'Neill's not stupid. He assumes that Hammond, having put that note in there to help save their asses, would also mention how they have to get back. Except it doesn't. All it has are 2 dates with times to them. Well, they figure that it must be something that is going to happen at both of those times that is going to be relevant to their situation. They just need to figure out what it is. No pressure, it's just the only thing separating you from getting home the easy way and having to relive the most horrible period of fashion in human history. Carter tries and fails to get someone to stop for them, so Teal'c finally has to handle it. I can't argue with your technique, but I do question your choice of transport. There's a good chance you're going to get a contact high just touching the hood ornament.
Hey, listen, we've got gas money.
It's ass, gas, or grass. Nobody rides for free. I think I heard that in the Muppet movie. It's also where I saw this bus, now that I think about it. Anyway, they're finally ready to head out east.
So, your thing, that thing, what's it symbolize? Peace?
Slavery. 2 false gods.
Right on.
You know you're in a strange period of history when it's Teal'c who's the one who most fits in. To help with that, they do a montage, get some cheap clothes because it's 1969, so how can you really tell the difference anyway? They're going to head to New York. The plan is to talk to Catherine, the one from the movie, about the Stargate. She's their best option, short of legging it to the South Pole. So yeah, driving cross-country in a hippie bus. Man, it so looks like I'm watching the Muppet movie. Why are there so many of these damn gold here? Anyway, so, heading across in the Muppet bus. I mean, I don't get me wrong. The Muppet bus is a pretty cool option, but personally, I still think Last Man on Earth, you ought to go with a pink Cadillac. I would make sure to strap one to the bottom of my Zeppelin, just in case this situation came up. Oh crap, I just realized I'm going to change my name if I get a Zeppelin. It's no good trying to fly around in a vehicle most famously related to the Hindenburg when your name is Debris. I mean, that's just asking for trouble. While camping out, Carter has an idea that was based upon the research that she did on the gate between the time of the film and the first episode of the series when they couldn't jump anywhere. Remember that for a time, their thing didn't work because they needed to have the information from Abydos in order to adjust for all the length of time in order to be able to account for the drift that was taking place. They were confined. This is going to be relevant in a future episode, the fact that this thing happened. Anyway, she was asked to research for the possible uses of the gate for other things, one of which is time travel, which simultaneously seems silly and incredibly dangerous. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like time travel and all that. It's just that, well, I don't want to get too anti-establishment here, but I worry about giving the government time machines, I'd much rather have it in the hands of the eccentrics who build them, The worst thing that Doc Brown is ever going to intentionally do with a time machine is buy some drugs.
Marty, we've got to head back to 1967, Marty. I know a guy with some killer weed then.
Anyway, the idea was that solar flares could possibly cause them to slingshot around the sun and come back to Earth, but in a different time, exactly like Star Trek IV, only without the whales, so in one aspect it's actually better. Now this wasn't practical for them because they can't predict solar flares, but the date and times are options for them based upon historical records. So all they need to do is use the Stargate at the right time, and they'll be partying like it's 1999. Because it actually will be. Well, the hippies overhear this, so O'Neill spins a yarn about them being aliens hiding among humans that are ready to go back home now because they're no longer being pursued by the man. And it takes a little persuading, but finally the hippies agree to help them with that, dropping O'Neill and Teal'c off at the observatory to verify that the first date is indeed a solar flare. While he does that, the others head to New York, pretending to be Germans who were connected to the project.
Mein father believed there must have been a second artifact, near that which thine father discovered in 1928.
No, the accent's not bad. The clothes aren't bad, but you can't have that accent with those clothes. Daniel sounds like he's running a back alley sex club. Welcome to the Clitoris. Why don't you pick out your dildo suit? But at least we've now found out that the Stargate is being held in an armory in D.C. So that takes care of that little wrinkle.
We want you to take us with you.
And introduces a new one. Sorry, pal, you don't want to come with us to our planet. I mean, they've actually outlawed hemp there. Turns out this guy is being drafted, and he's not sold on the idea of being sent to the other side of the planet to kill people against his will. But O'Neill makes clear, however grateful they might be for their help, they can't bring these two along. I mean, for one thing, I don't think the Air Force will be happy knowing that the secrecy of the Stargate program has been compromised in order to help this guy dodge the draft. But in any case, what matters is we found the finish line. The gate is here.
Back to where we came, via P2X555.
Wait a minute, how do you know we'll go forward in time instead of back?
Well, General Hammond must have chosen flares on the opposite side of the sun this time. So the sun's rotational differential will send us forward instead of back.
Right, that sounds exactly like something that Hammond would think. Well, it's not like we can go shopping around for another flare, so we're just going to have to try it and hope we don't get dropped back in 1939, where Daniel will say in German that they are definitely not Nazi spies. Only some Air Force guards show up, causing them to have to hope that there's a fudge factor in this whole thing. The answer is, not so much. They wind up overshooting and land in the future, where they're greeted by Cassandra, now very much grown up. Sam is going to tell Cassandra what happened at some point, so she'll eventually come back here at this moment in order to send them back. Friends in the past, friends in the future, I gotta say, it pays to network. I mean, assuming you don't have your own Zeppelin, that is. Well, finally, they've been dropped back in 1999, where Hammond explains, oh yeah, I've been waiting the entire time I've known you for the day that I've got to slip this note into your pocket. You didn't know when it was. The clue was the fact that Carter had that hand wound, the same one that he saw back in 1969. So, that was a lucky break. I said it was a lucky break, right? Sure is lucky that hand is split open like a hot dog in a microwave, I said.
Oh, by the way, Colonel, with interest, You owe me $539.50.
Damn. Hope that coat was worth it, O'Neill. This might be controversial, but I'm giving 1969 a stamp of fine. It's just, well, the episode seems to use time travel pretty much just as an excuse to do what they wanted to do. Have everyone travel around in 1969 wearing silly clothes with a couple of hippies, who don't actually get any resolution, it should be pointed out. They're just left to do whatever. Do they wind up fleeing to Canada? Does he wind up going to Vietnam? Does he survive? What happens? We don't know. We never find out. As the first time travel episode of the show, the rules aren't quite set in stone yet, but that's not something we can certainly hold against this. I consider this episode to be somewhat important, which you'll see in our next episode of SG-1, 2010, which is next week. So, I don't dislike this episode, but it's more about the novelty of it than actually having quality to it that really makes it worth watching. Once you've seen it once, there's really no point to ever see it again.